He said rings need a villain, guess I fit the bill. Y'all keep yelling on the screen, I'll just keep the taps chilled. With a grumpy talk show panel and a Chiron's on fire. He sold out every case before they cut to We'll Be Right Back choir. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hand. The Tammy Shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through.
Okay, how you doing, everyone? Welcome to Minocqua. You have arrived to your 3-day, hopefully your 3-day vacation. If you're only here for a day, then don't tell me because you're going to get drunk and you're going to drive somewhere. And I don't even want to know about that. I'm Kirk Bankstad. I own this place, the Minocqua Brewing Company. We do a special beer tasting every Friday and Saturday as long as I'm here and standing up straight. We do one at 4 o'clock every Friday and Saturday all summer long. I give you some beers. I tell you the stories behind some beers. You can leave at any time and go to the bar if you don't like my stories. But I usually mix a little bit of politics with some beers because if you're just here and you've never been here before, we're a unique place. We basically sell beer so that we can fund our political activism versus vice versa. So all the beers have a story, and I hope you enjoy it. So first of all, before we even pour you beer, I'm gonna mess with your palates first, and then settle into beer because we have a few things outside of beer, and it helps me tell the story. So I normally start with our Mexican lager. But we don't have that in cans, and I'm not going to pour you something that we don't have that you can buy later. It's called business. So I'm going to start with something that you've all heard of, this phrase 8647 before, right? Yeah. James Comey has been indicted. The Alaska FBI director has been indicted for just simply taking a picture of a beach with the terms 8647 on it. You can start pouring, Angie. It means in the restaurant world, and I used to own a restaurant about 2 football fields away, and I sold it during COVID, and this is a result of that. 86 means you're out of something, or you don't have it anymore. 47 is the year of our president. The current president is 47. It does not mean we want to kill or assassinate any president. It means we wish that president was gone. So we're saying that because I've been visited by the FBI and the Secret Service for saying similarly satirical things about our president, who none of us want to be president, that's sitting in this beer garden at the moment. If you do, you're probably sitting in the wrong beer garden today. So anyways, we made a THC. So if you don't want THC, you should not drink this. It's not true THC. It is hemp-derived THC, which is legal. Given the Farm Bill in America, we are able to serve this in Wisconsin. It's hop water. It's got hop extracts in it. It's got 0 calories, 0 sugar. The words 8647 are hidden in here because it's mischievous. And let me read you the little thing on the back. I hope you understand. It was a little too esoteric for some. It hasn't sold very well outside of the tap rooms, but we get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC hop water. 0 alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC hop water. Liberate your liver. Okay. Substitute Trump's name for alcohol in that description, and I think you'll understand where I was going. Nice shirt, my friend. I appreciate that shirt. Way to go.
Brand new.
Fabulous. Okay, so that's our THC hop water. I wanted to take a sip of that, and then the next thing we're gonna pour you a little taste of Sauvignon Blanc. Angie,
Yeah.
we're going straight. Oh, great. Oh my God, you're hitting us doubly. Way to go. So I didn't want to pour you wine after I poured you beer, so we're gonna pour you a little bit of wine next. And this leads into Pride Month. So this is why I'm also pouring it first. So we have Sauvignon Blanc and a rosé. We just got it from Pine Mountain in Sonoma County. We have a partnership with Equality Vines. And Equality Vines is co-owned by a guy named Jim Obergefell. And you might know the term if you're a lawyer, because Jim Obergefell is part of the Supreme Court case called Obergefell v. Hodges. And it happened in 2015, and it gave us marriage equality in the United States. So Jim Obergefell was a gay man from Ohio. His partner had cancer and was dying, and because Ohio's laws didn't allow him to even visit his partner, to sign any of the funeral documents, to do any power of attorney stuff, to even visit him in the hospital while he was dying. And I think you have to have a heart of absolute stone. You have to have a heart of absolute stone to think that somebody who loves somebody else shouldn't be able to be with that person when they're dying. And so Jim Obergefell, he went to court. He went to the Supreme Court and went all the way from Ohio to the Supreme Court, and they won. And in that moment, there was a hashtag called Love Wins, which will be our next beer that we have. But that's why Jim Obergefell, if you go to their winery in Sonoma, California, there's gay men, when they see Jim Obergefell, they cry, because without him, they would have not been able to be married to their partner. So that's Equality Vines. I made a beer label called Choice when Roe v. Wade was overturned a few years ago, and Wisconsin was the state, Wisconsin and Iowa, you could not get an abortion, but you could in Minnesota and Illinois. And so I made a label called Choice. And unfortunately, Choice, we gave money to reproductive rights groups. Unfortunately, the people who really care about reproductive rights and choice are usually women, and they're usually women who are a little older. And so that demographic doesn't drink as much beer as they drink wine. So I think I made a great label, but I didn't make it for the right liquid. And that's why I'm pouring you Choice wine right now. Every bottle of wine that you buy, we make a donation to reproductive rights groups. A lot of the money that we've donated has gone to a clinic in Rockford, Illinois, which was created specifically by folks in Wisconsin who couldn't, who realized that women couldn't get abortions in Wisconsin over the last 3 years. That has since been changed. We now can, thanks to the fact that we switched our Supreme Court, and now it's a progressive Supreme Court in Wisconsin. So that is our Sauvignon Blanc. Cheers. That is our Sauvignon Blanc. And the funny thing about the wonderful thing is the guy who makes this wine used to be a reporter for the Canadian Public Radio. And he was so upset that they used many of his stories for propaganda that he gave up reporting. He also was a football player, a professional soccer player in Canada. He gave up all that stuff and started growing weed in Sonoma, California. And he got so good at growing weed that he went to UC Davis and became a winemaker. And he's about as liberal and progressive as you can believe. And so he makes this wine for us, and it's really discounted from what it would cost if you were to buy the same wine under a different label in California. So I would encourage you to pick it up if you like wine. But we're not a winery, are we? We are a brewery. And so the next one we're going to do goes hand in hand. I gave them my Choice label to make wine, and they gave me their label that they originally created to make champagne, which is called Love Wins. So this next beer you're drinking is a fruited sour, and it is our seasonal beer that we make for Pride Month. And so this is our Pride beer, and it's really funny because when I came out with it with these guys, I was like, they're going to let me use their label. And by the way, we give money, every can of beer we sell of that, we give money to a group that helps gay families adopt children. And that group exists in Wisconsin, in like Whitewater. That's kind of the president lives there, but they're really big in California, and that's why this started. So the funny thing about this beer is I said, guys, I'm going to make an LGBTQ plus beer, but it's going to be a fruited sour. And I know that the word fruit or fruity is not the best word. It's used in a kind of in a bad way for the LGBTQ plus community. And they're like, if you're going to make a gay beer, you better fucking make it fruity. So I've gotten the go-ahead to make this a fruited sour from my friends at Equality Vines. By the way, sometimes you have an added bonus in the backyard here because we're very well known throughout the state of Wisconsin and America for being such a progressive brewery. And we don't, believe it or not, you're not in the most progressive place in Wisconsin. You're probably in one of the more MAGA infested places in this state because there's not a university within 2 hours of here. So sometimes we get the added bonus of a big pickup truck blowing coal on the side of the street. And I used to sell a T-shirt that said the Minocqua Brewing Company Birdwatching Society for obvious reasons. We watch a lot of birds when I'm giving a beer tasting in the middle of MAGA country. So the one thing I wanted to add before we move on to the next beer is that believe it or not, we are. They've tried to shut me down for 5 years now. The city tried to shut me down first through not allowing me to even have a parking lot. The county tried to shut me down through zoning violations, and I'll potentially get into more of that later. But we've lost battles, but we've won the war, and we still exist. So somehow now, because the city and the county can't pick fights with it anymore, they are starting to protest this establishment, and once a month, I think. Because last month they protested us, and we had a big rally. There was about 12 toothless rock fighters that were around over the street over there. And then we had about 100 people over here, and we had a big rally, and it was wonderful. They announced they're going to protest me again tomorrow at noon. They did that about 2 weeks ago. And so I said, well, it's Pride Month, so we might as well hold another party. And so we're going to have a Pride party tomorrow, starting at 11 a.m. And the protest starts at 12. So I want as many people to show up as possible. So if you wear Pride clothing or you dress in drag between the hours of 11 and 12, I will give you a free beer. Now at 12, when their official protest is supposed to start, I've hired 4 drag queens to give you this same beer tasting, but it won't be the same because I won't be running it. We will be handing out these beers for free, but there will be drag performances between every single one. So I would encourage you to come tomorrow if you're here for the weekend. It'll be a blast, and we also need to drown out. The goal is to have fun, to be frivolous, to love one another, to accept one another, and to make sure that we drown out hatred coming from across the street. Okay? So you're drinking for a good cause, is basically what I'm trying to say. Okay, now, Resistance Pilsner. Now we're getting into the real bulk of it all. So the Minocqua Brewing Company, when Trump was elected a year and a half ago, we met with some of the key players in Wisconsin that were trying to figure out what we needed to do to resist a potential authoritarian dictatorship. The reason I met with the Turners, which is a socialist organization in Milwaukee, I met with the Fighting Oligarchy Coalition, which is a Bernie Sanders organizer that's trying to organize the resistance down in Madison. They all went their separate ways. The Turners are helping Voces de la Frontera, help from people getting disappeared in Milwaukee. The Fighting Oligarchy Coalition has put up Francesca Hong to run for governor in Wisconsin. I am no longer running for governor. I didn't get enough signatures. If anybody's following that story, that's okay. So let's not talk about that right now. And what we started doing I formed the Minocqua Brewing Company Times, which I'll talk about later, that gets journalists, talk show hosts, union leaders, and organizers to write articles on our Substack page to let people know what's going in the Midwest and how to fight back, and to make sure that we cut through the noise of mainstream media that's no longer serving us. But before we were doing a resistance against Trump in 2024 through 26, we've been fighting our own little resistance movement up here in Minocqua for the last 5 years. When COVID hit, I owned a restaurant 2 football fields over this way, and when we didn't get the second round of PPP financing that we needed to survive, restaurants and bars needed to survive, I knew I wasn't going to exist. I wasn't going to last up here, so I thought I was going to go bankrupt. So I hung a huge Biden sign against the side of my building, and I basically said, in order to make beer, you have to believe in science. It's chemistry, and our government does not trusting in science and is lying to us right now, and that's why we are supporting Biden and Harris for office. Within days, the county said that my Biden sign was too big and they were going to fine me until I took it down. Obviously, that's crazy, and so I didn't do it. So I basically sold beer and T-shirts to raise money to pay those fines, and I sold about $100,000 worth of T-shirts in a week because everybody thought that was crazy. That put us on our feet, and then I made Biden beer when Biden won, and that's the first can. And people came from all over the country for Biden beer. It was written about in Politico magazine. It was written about in The Hill. And so that is what made this place. Without selling $50,000 of beer a month called Biden beer, I would have never had enough money to continue this because my restaurant was going out of business. So that's what started this place off. But the county who tried to put me down never forgot. They never forgot that I kind of embarrassed them, and they've been fighting to try to shut me down forever. So we fought to stay alive. But I want to fast forward to why it's called Resistance right now. This beer was never supposed to be called Resistance. It was supposed to be called Madam President. And because I was so sure that Kamala was going to win, and I actually still think, I don't want to say anything about conspiracy theories, but I'm just not sure that I believe that Trump really won. But I'm not going to be a MAGA person and dwell on that right now. But anyways, I had made this label, and it was Madam President. And in order to have a black woman become the president of the United States, she needed to stand on the shoulders of other African-American giants in American history. So that would be Martin Luther King. It would be Rosa Parks. It would be Ruby Bridges, who was the first black girl to go to a segregated school in the South. And then, of course, it was Barack Obama, who's our first black president. So that was going to be our beer. That was going to be our beer. Yeah, and you clap because he just had his thing yesterday on Juneteenth, and it was the most tear-jerking moment because you realize what a real president was. We remember what a real president was when he talked, and remember what a real first lady was when she talked. We remembered what we could have been and what we were and what we will be again. I hope. So instead of Madam President, I had the beer made and I had the labels made. So I had to make a new label the next day so our beer wouldn't get skunky. So instead of that label, I put the Statue of Liberty. It's over there in front, and instead of Kamala Harris, and I put the 4 presidents in American history that I think saved us when we needed saving the most. And that was George Washington for the Revolutionary War. It was Abraham Lincoln for the Civil War. It was Teddy Roosevelt who helped us get through the first Gilded Age, and we are living in the second Gilded Age right now. There's no doubt about it. And then finally, it was Franklin Delano Roosevelt who helped us get over World War II. We would have be speaking German right now if he hadn't helped us get through that. So that's the Pilsner Resistance Lager or Resistance Pilsner, and that's our new flagship alcohol, our flagship beer. And we are part of the resistance in Wisconsin, and our resistance efforts are mostly writing and journalism at the moment. Okay, Angie, we're doing Freedom Kolsch, right? Oh, shoot. What did you do? Okay. Apparently that's not the right one. But the next one we're going to drink, because Kolsch beer is very similar to Pilsners, and I want to now, after I've messed up your palates from all these things that are not beer, I want to kind of go in an order that helps your palate. The Kolsch Freedom Trail. Okay. So one of the things that we've done in the last 5 years is that we have a super PAC. We've raised over $2 million in donations, usually around $35 a donation. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that we sued to get rid of the parasitic voucher school program, private school voucher school program in Wisconsin. If you are from Arizona, you may know that the parasitic private school voucher system is meant to kill public schools. Arizona is a state that's been killed more than Wisconsin has. What it does is it allows you to take state dollars to put your kid into private school, and it takes that money out of the public school funds to do it. By and large, in Wisconsin, most of the private schools are Catholic schools, and most of the parents would have taken their kids to Catholic schools anyways. Now, I have nothing against Catholic schools, but what I do have against is our public property taxes going to send kids to Catholic schools. And that's happening by and large. And it's over the last 30 years, we used to be top 5 in education in the state of Wisconsin, and now we are 25. And the reason is because our public schools have been sapped by these private school vouchers. A lot of the voucher schools only exist for 3 years because they can get $12,000 per kid. They convince a bunch of folks in the inner city to go to a private school. They take all that money per kid. They don't give that kid any services. Then they go out of business, and now they're millionaires. This is what happens when you privatize public education. So I talk about that as a reason to go into Freedom Trail Kolsch. We have lost a lot of good teachers in the state of Wisconsin, and if we had had them, they might have been able to teach us a little bit about the Weimar Republic, which was the period that came right before the Third Reich, which was Hitler's rise in Germany. So if you would read history about the Weimar Republic and the rise of Hitler, you will find uncanny similarities to what is happening in America right now. First of all, one of those similarities is that they either elected or they appointed judges who used the laws of democracy in Germany to kill democracy in Germany. And the similarity that exists today is that the Supreme Court of the United States are using the Constitution of the United States to get rid of things called the Voting Rights Act, which allowed equal representation in the South. It allowed black people to have a chance to have their own representatives. That's just been demolished. The Supreme Court has given the President of the United States immunity. Under the law, it says that he can't commit crimes when he's doing official acts as the president. The founding fathers did not intend for that to happen. That's why we have no kings marches all the time. So the Weimar Republic used judges to take down democracy. America is now using the Supreme Court to take down democracy. Another very similar thing that happened in Germany that is happening now is that Hitler's rise and the rise of the Third Reich was also the rise of secret police. Remind me what they were called in Germany. Gestapo. Thank you, because I drink a lot and sometimes my brain doesn't connect the dots. The Gestapo was a secret police in Germany that only answered to Hitler, and they didn't answer to army generals. The rise of ICE in America is very similar to the rise of the Gestapo, who has now been funded. ICE has been funded to the tune of $70 billion. That's more than the entire Russian army. It's more than any other agency, more than the FBI, more than the Marines, more than the army. At some point, there will be a point when we've spent that money on detention centers, which are very similar to concentration camps, and we've spent that money hiring ICE agents, and we only train them for 30 days as opposed to 6 months. We train Christian nationalists, not real people who want to be in law enforcement. We train thugs to be in ICE, which is exactly what Gestapo was. All they care about is answering the call. Christian nationalism, answering the call of whatever crazy government we have. This is dangerous. At some point, we may have too many ICE agents where they simply start disobeying the federal judges who are still fair in our country. They may start disobeying a Congress. Even if we switch our Congress to Democrats in November, there may just be too many ICE agents who just simply disobey the laws that are made. I fear for that. So that's why we pour Freedom Kolsch, because we want to remember the resistance movement in Germany. If you were caught behind enemy lines, you went from Germany to Vichy, France, to the northern part of Africa. You went to Casablanca, which is the picture of our can, which has a Casablanca theme. And then you flew from Casablanca to Portugal, which got you back to America. That was the Freedom Trail. And that's the part of our can. That's the resistance movement during FDR's time in Germany. Okay, what's next? We got Underground Railroad. Okay, the next resistance movement during Lincoln's time is the Underground Railroad, which took slaves from the south to the north of America and to Canada. We made Underground Railroad. It's a hazy IPA because that Underground Railroad was quite hazy. The can is beautiful. It shows people in the shadows holding hands and helping each other through an underground tunnel. Let's talk about the Civil War times that happened then. After the Civil War, after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, we had Andrew Johnson, who was a Democrat who became the president in America. And back then, Democrats were the Republicans. Back then, the Democrats were the Southern KKK, anti-black, pro-slavery party. Andrew Johnson was one of them. Immediately after the Civil War, it was called the Reconstruction era. Reconstruction meant that we elected, that they forbade black people in the South from voting through poll taxes. They charged them to vote. They made them take tests. Now, if you were a black slave who grew up without school, do you think they were able to read? Well, they made them take tests, and obviously they failed those tests and they couldn't vote. These were called the Jim Crow laws in America, and it decreased representation, and it made the House of Representatives in America just as racist and against blacks as they were before the Civil War. So that was something that had to be beat after the Civil War, all the way through the Civil Rights Movement in the 60s with Martin Luther King. That continuum continued with blacks not being represented the way they should. Martin Luther King fought hard to get the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act passed in America so that blacks had representation even in the deepest parts of the South. All that work And Lyndon Johnson passed it after Selma, after all these folks were beaten up on the Selma Bridge. What's his name? The guy that said good trouble. John Lewis, he got his head cracked in on the Selma March. They did all of that so they could simply get equal representation under the law, and they passed the Voting Rights Act that made it illegal for the South to gerrymander blacks out of representation. That happened in the 60s. Just a month ago, that act was gutted by our Supreme Court. We are back in the same position we were before Martin Luther King changed our country for the better, and all the people that marched with him changed our country for the better. So we have to. The good thing that comes from that, though, is that when you gerrymander districts, like in Texas, they gerrymandered Texas to get 6 or 7 more congressional seats. They diluted heavy Republican areas to now slightly Republican areas to get more seats. Well, you know who a lot of those Republican voters were? Latinos, who will never vote for a Republican again in their lives. And so their attempt to gerrymander the South, I believe, will backfire on lots of them, because normal people who see what's happening in America hate the fact that their neighbors, even if they're brown neighbors, are getting disappeared and sent to detention centers. And so I truly believe if we are allowed to vote, the Voting Rights Act being gutted will not kill America, because we will have a huge surprise of people who vote for Democrats or progressives this November, assuming that we are allowed to vote in November. And that's something that I'm not so sure is going to happen. What's our next beer? Culper Spiring. Okay. While you're pouring Culper Spiring, go for it. I'm going to slow down a little bit and talk about why I worry that our elections won't happen in November. I said ICE is growing. So ICE, I believe, so Trump has already seized the election records in Georgia. He is attempting to get all of our voter rolls throughout the country. If they federalize our voter rolls, it allows them to kick Democrats off of voter rolls. And if Trump is good at one thing, he's good at doing things first and getting sued later and just letting what?
By the way, check to make sure you're still on them, because I just checked my name's off the voter rolls.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Well, there we go.
So just make sure you check the voter rolls, because someone told me to check it and I didn't. Mine's gone now.
Wow. So
yeah.
So it's very important that we worry about this. It's very important we talk about it right now. We have to ensure that not only we are on the voter rolls and we fight this before it's too late, we also have to start talking about the fact that ICE agents might come to polling places and scare the crap out of people who are trying to vote, especially people of color in Wisconsin. So I'm worried about that. And I think you should be worried too. And I think you should demand your politicians talk about that. And they talk about a plan for protecting our ballots and protecting our voting places in November. Now, Culper Spiring, we're going to talk about George Washington. George Washington's resistance network was a bunch of spies that monitored British troop movements in New York City. Without the Culper Spiring, and this is our IPA, by the way, we're going from low alcohol to higher alcohol. Without the Culper Spiring, we would have lost the Revolutionary War because we were underfunded and we had fewer troops than the English. What also happened during the Revolutionary War, what caused the Revolutionary War, was colonialists were being taxed, but they had no representation in Britain. And they called it no taxation without representation, and that is one of the major arguments they had. And the reasons that we went to war against the British is because they were taxing the rich farmers here, and those folks didn't have any representation. I will argue that is happening today in America. Anybody from Milwaukee or from Appleton, Outagamie County? Milwaukee. We We had a big flood. You guys had a big flood last September, right? So you guys had a flood. Tony Evers called it a state of emergency. Normally, when the governor calls it a state of emergency or a disaster area, it immediately triggers FEMA, which triggers federal funds to be given to FEMA so that people can help you recover from your flood and help build the city of Milwaukee again. 2 months ago, similar thing that happened in Outagamie County. Little towns of Shiocton and New London, which are close to Appleton, were completely underwater. Again, Tony Evers declared it a state of emergency. Both times, Trump refused to let any dollars flow to Wisconsin simply because Evers is a Democratic governor and we're a purple leaning towards blue state. That is the only reason that federal funds are not flowing to us during emergencies. Similar things happened in North Carolina and in California when they had natural disasters. I would say that is no taxation without representation. We pay federal tax, and even so, I might make you cut this quick because we're raining out right now. I've got a tent, you don't. You know, taxation without representation means the blue states need to take a stand, and we need to put your taxes in escrow, in a state escrow account, and only pay them to the federal government when they stop breaking the Constitution and when they start acting normal again. And I think that is a wonderful way, because the blue states are where all the rich people come from. New York, California, Illinois, that's the economy of America flows through blue states. We are the ones that give more back than we get from our federal taxes. I shouldn't say we, because Wisconsin is not part of that, but blue states are. If we stopped paying federal taxes and the governors had enough courage to stand together, we could stop them from abusing us. And so that's one of the ideas I had that I think we should pursue. Finally, we have, it's called Steve Hofstadter's Milkshake Alarm Clock. Now, this is not a beer. It's an oat milk flavored latte with real sugar in it. And I give it to you because after you've had all this beer, you need to drive away and go to dinner. And I want to make sure you get to dinner okay. And it gives you a little caffeine. But normally this part of the speech includes Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt, we have a stout called Muckraker, which we don't have in cans right now. But this is the same kind of thing. So Teddy Roosevelt was our president during the first Gilded Age. During the first Gilded Age, we had Vanderbilt, Carnegie, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan. These guys were the oligarchs of 100 years ago. Today, we have Zuckerberg, Thiel, Bezos, Larry Ellison. We have the similar type of oligarchy today as we had 100 years ago. The only way we were able to get rid of the oligarchy 100 years ago were because of muckrakers. Anybody ever heard the term muckraker before? So muckrakers were guys like the guy Upton Sinclair. Thank you, because my brain sometimes forgets. Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle. And if you're from Chicago, you should be reading The Jungle or have read The Jungle. It's about Polish immigrants who came to Chicago and they worked for meatpacking plants. There was an oligarch who owned that meatpacking plant who only cared about profits. If you worked for that meatpacking plant, you had to buy a house in their corporate area. They built the house as shabbily as they could so they could increase their profits. You didn't have heat in that house in the winter in Chicago. They made you shop at a grocery store where they provided all the food. You basically were given Spam in a can, but as opposed to even the crappy Spam, they put sawdust in those cans so that they had less nutrition and they could make it cheaper. They could make more money off of those immigrants. Lastly, usually it was the guy that was working and the family was at home. If that guy got sliced up in a meatpacking plant and he got infected or he didn't have any health care, there was no safety net. If he couldn't work, he couldn't provide for his family, and they starved. And so Upton Sinclair wrote about these working conditions, and they were so disgusting that they convinced people to actually stand up against the oligarchy. So Teddy Roosevelt was our president at the time, but without the muckrakers, we wouldn't have been able to convince enough Americans to rise up and change and make change. So the muckrakers of then were Ida Tarbell, Upton Sinclair, and a whole lot more. We have muckrakers today. I would say one of the number one muckrakers today is Heather Cox Richardson. If you read Heather Cox Richardson, if you don't, you should. The Midas Network. You have Kazim Rashid in Naperville, who's kind of a socialist, but he's great at calling out Democrats for not being strong enough and hardcore enough. Believe it or not, and these guys are all on Substack, which is a platform that it's called independent media, independent journalism now, because CBS has now been taken over by Larry Ellison, and Barry Weiss is an apologist for Trump and is an apologist for Netanyahu. CBS and Colbert's not on anymore. CBS is no longer there. The Washington Post, which was the second paper of record in America, has now been taken over by Bezos and is no longer a shadow of what it used to be. Benioff from Salesforce.com took over Time Magazine. Of course, Elon Musk took over Twitter. We no longer have media that serves the working class or even the middle class in America anymore. Mostly it's propaganda. I sound like Trump because he said that 8 years ago before it actually came true. When he became president, he killed off mainstream media, and now it is true. So many of the best journalists, the ones who have been fired from 60 Minutes, like that guy a couple weeks ago, Jim Acosta from CNN, they've moved to Substack, and they're doing their own thing, and John Lemon has moved to Substack. They're trying to report the best they can as truthful journalists. Believe it or not, the Minocqua Brewing Company Times, which I created to try to give a progressive view of what was going on in the Midwest, has been rated top 50th among U.S. political Substack pages time and again over the last year. My secret sauce is this. Every time you buy a t-shirt from me from the Minocqua Marketplace, or you buy a fuck Trump candle, or you buy a fuck Trump anything, I get your email address. I immediately put it into my Substack page, and you get an email from me. And yes, we sell stuff on that email, but what you're getting is beautiful essays written by Patty Vasquez, who's a liberal Chicago talk show host, by Ben Kalmanos, who's a progressive talk show host in Appleton, by Michael Yoakum, who's a drummer of Korn, who's an amazing writer, and I write a little bit as well, and we try to do the best we can with a little budget to bring a little truth to media and a progressive lens. So I call myself a C- muckraker. Heather Cox Richardson's the gold standard, but we're doing the best we can in this little crazy place in Minocqua, Wisconsin. So if you take nothing else from here, I hope you've had a good time. But I encourage you, if I can do this in little Minocqua, Wisconsin, I encourage you to go back to where you live and make sure you do everything you can to allow us to get elections in November, and you do everything you can to not just sit back and be horrified. You have to actually put skin in the game, and you have to flex your muscles, and you have to join. And joining Indivisible and marching is great, but it's not enough. You need to become an election worker or an election observer. You need to figure out mutual aid, buy whistles, help your neighbors who are getting disappeared if you live in big cities. That's what needs to happen right now, not just marching on the No Kings days, even though that's great and it shows solidarity. So thanks so much, everyone. I appreciate it. Okay, end stream. Boom, my computer just got rained on. Yeah, thanks, man.
Hi, good, sir. Thank you. Bob. Hey, Bob. Nice to meet you.
Oh, Peterson?
No,
The veteran?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, I first heard you on. I live in Minneapolis. Okay. And I first heard you on MAGA. So I thought maybe you could pop up and go through the about. I come up to St. Germain every year. Twice a year. That's my first time on the MAGA office. So, yeah. You have a red line? You do. Yeah. Wisconsin, right? But I want to tell you. Beautiful. Yeah. Someone's called. Yeah. You're a rower? Yeah. I rode in college. Oh, you did? Where'd you go? I rode for Harry Carter. Yeah. No, I was a lightweight. So he was a heavyweight. And I was a great cross country. I realized quite quickly that I was body. Oh, yeah, like that. Yeah, that was harder for me. But I was so skinny because I was across the country that I needed to balance. Oh, yeah, the recruiter thinks I was tall and lanky, but not lanky the right way. Yeah, like. So I didn't last very long. Lights are important. Yeah, and you gotta get no audio. Yeah, I've been running a lot of years. I'm not happy. Yeah. Well, yeah, no wonder I heard. I kind of switched my focus more away. So now I just, well, right away, I should wait twice a week. Some weeks I fall short. That's all. But yeah. I can go in there.
Oh, no, I was just going to say thank you.
Here you go.
Very listening.
Pass the mic, let's disappoint the crowd with a cooler full of courage and a marketing plan that's mostly just a myth. Up in Managua, where the Northwood tall. Kirk Bank's dad started brewing when his restaurant took a fall. He hung a Biden sign in the reddest part of the state and started pouring progressive beer on nothing but pure faith. He said, if they're gonna hate me, might as well be loud. Pass the hops and pass the mic, let's disappoint the crowd. With a cooler full of courage and a marketing plan that's mostly just a middle finger in a frosty can. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hands, the tangy shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. They boycotted his distributors from Illinois to the north. Kirk just kept on pouring and he doubled down his work. Fox News came a call and thought they'd shame him good and well. He thanked them for the free press and said, go straight to hell. He said ratings need a villain, guess I fit the bill. Y'all keep yelling on the screen, I'll just keep the taps chilled. With a grumpy talk truck panel and a Chiron's on fire. He sold out every case before they cut to We'll Be Right Back choir. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hand, the tangy shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. Madison tap room in the winter, Monopoly when it's warm. Kirk Bank's dad gonna keep his word, he's weathered every storm. 2,000 comments on that post, the whole world had to look at a little Wisconsin brewery that refused to kiss the ring. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Progressive beer from Wisconsin, brewed with hard fire. Show 'em that old Facebook post when the day finally arrives. So when your uncle at Thanksgiving starts to rant and sneer, just smile, nod politely, and say, pass the beer, 'cause nothing shuts down nonsense like a cold-free pour at the bar to turn one Facebook fight into Norwood folklore. Up in Managua, where the Norwood pines grow tall, Kirk Bank's dad started brewing when his restaurant took a fall. He hung a Biden sign in the reddest part of the state and started pouring progressive beer on nothing but pure faith. He said, if they're they're gonna hate me, might as well be loud. Pass the house and pass the mic, let's disappoint the crowd. With a cooler full of courage and a marketing plan that's mostly just a middle finger in a frosty can. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hands, the tangy shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. They boycotted his distributor from Illinois to the north. Kirk just kept on pouring and he doubled down his work. Fox News came a call and thought they'd shame him good and well. He thanked them for the free press and said, go straight to hell. He said ratings need a villain, guess I fit the bill. Y'all keep yelling on the screen, I'll just keep the taps chilled. With a grumpy talk truck panel and a Chiron's of fire. He sold out every case before they cut to We'll Be Right Back choir. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Pilsner in your hand, tangy shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. Madison tap room in the winter, the night boy when it's warm. Kirk Bangstad gonna keep his word, he's weathered every storm. 2,000 comments on that post, the whole world had to look at a little Wisconsin brewery that refused to kiss the ring. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Progressive beer from Wisconsin, brewed with heart and fire. Show them that old Facebook post when the day finally arrives. So when your uncle at Thanksgiving starts to rant and sneer, just smile, nod politely, and say pass the beer, 'cause nothing shuts down nonsense like a cold free pour at the bar to turn one Facebook fight into Northwood folklore. Up in Managua, where the Northwood pines grow tall, Kirk Bangstad started brewing when his restaurant took a fall. He hung a Biden sign in the reddest part of the state and started pouring progressive beer on nothing but pure faith. He said, they're gonna hate me, might as well be loud. Pass the house and pass the mic, let's disappoint the crowd. With a cooler full of courage and a marketing plan that's mostly just a middle finger in a frosty can. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hands. The tangy shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. They boycotted his distributor from Illinois to the north. Kirk just kept on pouring and he doubled down his work. Fox News came a call and thought they shame him good and well. He thanked them for the free press and said, go straight to hell. He said ratings need a villain, guess I fit the bill. Y'all keep yelling on the screen, I'll just keep the taps chilled. With a grumpy talk truck panel and a Chiron's on fire. He sold out every case before they cut to We'll Be Right Back choir. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hand. The tangy shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. Madison tap room in the winter. Monopoly when it's warm. Kirk Bangstad gonna keep his word. He's weathered every storm. 2,000 comments on that post. The whole world had to look at a little Wisconsin brewery that refused to kiss the ring. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Progressive beer from Wisconsin, brewed with hard fire. Show them that old Facebook post when the day finally arrives. So when your uncle at Thanksgiving starts to rant and sneer, just smile, nod politely, and say pass the beer, cause nothing shuts down nonsense like a cold free pour at the bar to turn one Facebook fight into Norwood folklore. Up in the network where the Norwood pines grow tall, Kirk Bangstad started brewing when his restaurant took a fall. He hung a Biden sign in the reddest part of the state and started pouring progressive beer on nothing but pure faith. He said if they're gonna hate me, might as well be loud. Pass the house and pass the mic, let's disappoint the crowd. With a cooler full of courage and a marketing plan that's mostly just a middle finger in a frosty can. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hands. The Tammy Shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. They boycotted his distributor from Illinois to the north. Kirk just kept on pouring and he doubled down his work. Fox News came a call and thought they shamed him good and well. He thanked them for the free press and said, go straight to hell. He said ratings need a villain, guess I fit the bill. Y'all keep yelling on the screen, I'll just keep the taps chilled. With a grumpy talk show panel and a Chiron's on fire. He sold out every case before they cut the We'll Be Right Back choir. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hand. The Tammy Shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. Madison tap room in the winter. Monopoly when it's warm. Kirk Banks said gonna keep his word. He's weathered every storm. 2,000 comments on that post. The whole world had to look at a little Wisconsin brewery that refused to kiss the ring. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Progressive beer from Wisconsin, brewed with hard fire. Show 'em that old Facebook post when the day finally arrives. So when your uncle at Thanksgiving starts to rant and sneer, just smile, not politely, and say pass the beer, 'cause nothing shuts down nonsense like a cold-free pour at the bar to turn one Facebook fight into Norwood folklore. Up in the network, where the Norwood pines grow tall. Kirk Banks started brewing when his restaurant took a fall. He hung a Biden sign in the reddest part of the state. He started pouring progressive beer on nothing but pure faith. He said if they're gonna hate me, might as well be loud. Pass the hops and pass the mic, let's disappoint the crowd. With a cooler full of courage and a marketing plan that's mostly just a middle finger in a frosty can. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hands. The Tammy Shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. They boycotted his distributor from Illinois to the joint. Kirk just kept on pouring, and he doubled down his work. Fox News came a call and thought they shame him good and well. He thanked them for the free press and said, go straight to hell. He said ratings need a villain, guess I fit the bill. Y'all keep yelling on the screen, I'll just keep the taps chilled. With a grumpy talk truck panel and a Chiron's a fire. He sold out every case before they cut to We'll Be Right Back choir. Free beer all day long. Come on down and raise a glass and sing this freedom song. Resistance Pilsner in your hand. The Shandy too. Just walk on in and raise your glass and sing this whole night through. Madison tap room in the winter, but not when it's warm. Kirk said gonna keep his word, he's weathered every storm. 2000